The selling is coming to an end. I see Joe. I don't remember him being sold. I'm sorry. He's standing with the lady in the long blue dress who was looking at him before the selling started. I guess he's the one what bought him. She looks like a nice lady. I hope he'll be all right with her.
Will, after yesterday, I didn't want to stay inside and watch the selling, so I stayed outside. There's a shed next to the blacksmith shop where I could stay out of the rain and talk with the other slaves who came here with their masters. All I want to do now is find Master and find out what he wanted me to do. I'd like nothing better than to go back to the plantation, sit in the kitchen by the stove, and let the heat dry these wet clothes and have Maddie make me a cup of elderberry tea. I'm glad of one thing, though. This rain is finally letting up.
His eyes roam quickly around the barn as he looks for his master. He sees Emma at the far end of the barn, Sarah holding her hand. Will looks confused, unable to understand why she is there. He sees the slave seller talking with a woman in a long blue dress. He sees the slave seller point in Emma's direction, then watches as the slave seller and the woman in the long blue dress make their way across the barn to where Master Butler stands in a corner. Emma says, "The lady in the long blue dress and slave seller were looking in this direction. Ain't nothing over here for them to see. Now the slave seller says something to Master, and then Master and the lady start talking. Master shakes his head, and she talks some more. Master don't shake his head this time. She talks some more. This time Master nods slowly. The woman holds out a hand, and Master shakes it. The woman turn around and look over here again. Miss Frances is looking over this way too. Master looked like he found something very interesting on the floor to stare at. Master says something to Frances, and she starts in this direction. I see Papa. He's staring at Master and looks angry about something. Frances calls out, "Sarah, Papa wants you." Sarah says, "Come on, Emma. It's time to go home." Emma can't come. "Why not?" "Because." "Where you going, Emma?" "Come on, Sarah. We gotta go. Come on now. Papa's gonna get angry if you don't come right now." "What's going on, Miss Frances? What was that lady in the blue dress talking to your papa about?" "Papa said I shouldn't say anything to you." "Frances, did Master Butler sell me to that lady? Is that what they were shaking hands about?" "Come on, Sarah. Now." "Please, Sarah, Papa wants you to come with me." "Emma, Papa wouldn't sell you. I know he wouldn't do that." "You go on with your sister. Your papa wants you. You go on now." "But what about you? I want you to come." "You go on now. Everything'll be all right." She takes her arms from around Sarah, looks at Frances, and opens her arms. Frances runs to Emma's embrace, tears trickling down her face. The two hug tightly. After a moment, Emma releases her. "You go on now. You don't want to keep your papa waiting." The two girls walk slowly away, holding each other's hands, as Mr. Henfield walks toward Emma.
When the girls reach Master, he reaches down and hits Sarah hard on her behind. "When I say for you to come, I mean you to come right now. You hear me? Don't you be looking at Emma like you need her permission to do what I say." He hits her again, harder. Sarah starts screaming and runs back toward Emma. Master runs and picks her up. She starts kicking at him. Will looks at the Master Butler, trying to control Sarah, who's squirming and kicking so hard that he is forced to put her down. Sarah runs towards Emma again and again. Her father catches her. Will sees the woman in the long blue dress going towards Emma. He knows immediately what has transpired and hurries to Master Butler. Will says, "No, no, Master, you promised, you promised, you promised." Matler says, "Take Sarah out to the coach and stay with her." Will, "How could you do this? We grew up together. We was like brothers. How could you do this?" Master says, "But we aren't brothers, Will. Now take Sarah out to the coach or Maddie won't see you this evening either." "I should have let you drown." Will reaches down and picks up Sarah, whose cries diminish in his arms. He leaves holding Sarah tightly as she holds him tightly around the neck. Meanwhile, at the opposite side of the barn,
Mistress Henfield says, Master Butler tells me your name is Emma, and that you are very good at taking care of children. Is that so? Emma's eyes are down. She does not want anyone to see her face. Not yet. Not yet. Not until her face is plain as a board. Not until she looks like she is not here. Yes, ma'am. I have a little girl who's almost 2. Do you think you can take care of someone that little? Yes, ma'am. Have you ever heard of Kentucky? No, ma'am. We live in Kentucky, which is a long way from Georgia. Yes, ma'am. I am Mistress Henfield. Yes, ma'am. Well, we should get started. You don't have anything to bring with you, of course. Come, child. My little girl, Ruth, is outside in the coach with Samson. Master Butler drove a hard bargain for you. I hope you're worth all I paid, Emma. You go stand in that line. Master Butler has a little goodbye present for all his slaves. Yes, ma'am. I don't know what to feel. I want to scream. I want to cry. And at the same time, I feel like my heart has stopped beating, and I will never feel anything again. At least the other slaves knew what was going to happen to them. They had time to say goodbye. But my mama is back there at the plantation, expecting me to come back and help her prepare the supper and serve the table tonight. She don't know she ain't never going to see me again. Mistress Henfield is taking me across the barn to where other slaves are standing, as if they're waiting for something. She acts like I don't have feelings, like it don't hurt me in my heart to be sold to her like I was nothing more than a bag of walnuts or a sack of onions. How would she feel if 1 minute she was talking to her daughter and the next minute somebody took her away? She don't think about that. She'd treat me like I ain't no more than a box to be picked up and moved wherever she wanted to go. She seems to be a nice lady, but she don't know how much I hate her, how much I always hate her. I'm standing in the line of slaves and see Joe, a few people ahead of me. I call out to him. He turns and looks surprised to see me and comes back to where I am.
Emma, what you doing here? Master Butler sell you?
That's what he did. Sold me to the lady I think bought you.
Mrs. Henfield?
The one in the long blue dress.
That's Mr. Henfield. I'm sorry you got sold, but I'm glad we're gonna be together.
Me too. What we standing in this line for?
Master Butler has given each one of us a silver dollar.
He think that gonna make us feel better?
A lot of these Negroes think this shows what a good master he is. It's the first real money they ever had in their hands.
Don't matter.
No, it don't.
And he grasps Emma's hand, and she holds his in return.
We're the closest each other got to family now, Emma. That's more important than anything.
He's right. Sometimes family ain't blood, but them what are by your side when you need somebody? That line is getting shorter and shorter. Now it's our turn. Master is standing there with a silly grin on his face, holding that dollar out. But Joe walks on past him like he ain't even there. Now it's my turn. I stop and look at Master, look him straight in the eye. And he starts blinking his eyes real fast, like he wishes he was a bird and his eyelids was wings and he could fly away. I keep staring at him until he starts to get real red in the face. Then I walk on. As I step out of the barn, I'm surprised to see that the rain has stopped and that the sun is shining brightly through a large hole in the clouds. I can feel its warmth on my arms and face. Emma! Emma! Sarah opens the coach door and runs out and throws herself into Emma's arms. Will follows right behind her. He hugs Emma with Sarah between them. Emma can no longer hold back her tears, and she begins to cry.
Don't cry, child. You gotta be strong now, you hear me? Strong. To Joe. You be strong too. Emma ain't got nobody now but you. You hear that? You understand what I'm saying? Yes, sir, I understand. I'll take good care of her.
Emma hugs her father more tightly and says, Tell Mama I won't forget nothing she taught me. Tell her I'll be all right and I'll be strong. Papa, I'll be strong. When Papa and I take our arms from around each other, I can feel his tears on the side of my face, and the front of my dress is wet with Sarah's tears. The lady in the blue dress, Mistress Henfield, is coming toward us, and I kiss Papa, and then I kiss Sarah and give her another hug.
Joe says to Sarah, "You remind me so much of your mama. You think you can have a good heart like your mama does? Think you can do that?" Sarah nods her head several times and then hugs Emma tightly until Emma takes the girl's arms from around her waist.
Mistress Henfield comes. Joe and I follow her across the driveway to where her coach is. I sit inside with her and a little girl. Joe sits outside next to the slave driving the coach. The coach starts to move. I put my head out the window and see Papa and Sarah standing in the driveway waving. I wave back. I keep looking at them. They get smaller and smaller, and when the coach goes around a bend in the road, they disappear.
Samson, the driver of the coach carrying Emma and Joe to their new home in Kentucky. The boy sits on the seat beside me, shivering like it's the middle of winter. He's scared. He's probably feeling like a leaf got blown off a tree and don't know where it's going to land. "Everything's going to be all right, son. Mrs. Henfield, she's a good woman. She's a widow lady. Her husband died a while back and left her to run the plantation by herself. It's not a big place, not like what I understand you used to. There's just a few of us Negroes on the place, and Mrs. Henfield treats us almost like family. We have our own gardens. She lets us hire out our time in town. I work for the blacksmith and earn some hard cash money. Mistress takes some of it, of course, but the rest I get to keep for myself. You feel bad now because of all you're leaving behind, but when you see where you're going, you'll be happy Mistress Henfield bought you." The boy don't say nothing for the longest time. Then I hear this voice that don't have nothing but hate in it. "If that's all you got to say, old man, then you can stop talking." It's all I can do to keep from pushing this boy off the coach. Mistress be better off if I left him lying in the road. I'm trying to make him feel better, trying to be his friend, but he talked to me like he thinks I'm a fool. He's a fool. He don't understand that slavery's the best thing that ever happened to us Negroes. Where would we be if we didn't have the white folks to take care of us? We'd be out there in the woods or on the road somewhere begging for our supper. I don't have to worry about getting a good meal every day or having a roof over my head, and I'll have that every day of my life if I do what the white folks tell me. Chapter 7. The Kitchen. In the kitchen of Pierce Butler's house, it is night. From the dining room come sounds of people talking loudly and laughing. Mattie stands at the stove cooking. In a corner of the kitchen, Sarah is asleep at a table, her folded arms acting as a pillow for her head.
I knew something terrible had happened the minute I heard that girl screaming. From way down the road I could hear her, and the closer they got, the louder her screaming was. I ran outside, and the coach had hardly stopped before she was out the door and running to me. "Papa sold Emma! Papa sold Emma!" she sobbed. Master Butler got out of the coach, and he couldn't even look at me. He picked Frances up like he was afraid she was going to turn and run to me too, and went into the house like he didn't know I was even standing there. Will was just sitting atop the coach, and the tears were flowing down his face. That's the first time I've ever seen that man cry. He didn't even cry when his parents died. "At least they not in slavery no more," was all he said about that. He got down from the coach and come over to where I was outside the door to the kitchen, and he hugged me real hard and kept saying over and over, "I'm sorry, Mattie. I'm sorry," like it was his fault. Sarah sat there in between us like she wanted as much of the hugging as she could get, and Will picked her up. She put one arm around my neck and one arm around Will's, and the three of us had ourselves a good cry. Master must have been watching from the inside the house, because the next thing I knew, he was on the porch calling for Sarah. "You come here right now, Sarah, or I'll spank your little bottom again." Sarah hopped out of Will's arms and scurried behind the two of us, as if there was something we could do to protect her. And maybe we did, because I stared at Master, looked him in the eye with the purest and the holiest anger I have ever felt. Seems like it was more than master could take, and he went on back in the house. Will had to go put the wagon away and brush and feed the mules. I had to finish getting the food ready for master's banquet, celebrating all the money he made from selling his slaves. You should go in the house to your papa now, Miss Sarah, I said to her. She shook her head vigorously. I hate him! I hate him! Don't you be saying nothing like that around me, young lady. He's your father. Don't you be hating your father. But I do, Mattie, I do. I couldn't argue with her. Not as much hatred as I was feeling in my heart for that man. I didn't know I had so much hatred in me, but if my hatred was fire, nothing would be left standing on this place. Miss Sarah followed me back to the kitchen. I made a cup of mint tea and gave it to her. She drank a little bit, put her arms on the table, laid her head down, and promptly fell asleep. The poor thing had worn herself out crying, but every now and then I hear her whimper and moan in her sleep. Whatever time I get to bed tonight, I know I'm not going to sleep. I didn't know a person could be angry and sorrowful at the same time, but that's what I am. When I think about master, I get so angry I think I can hear my blood boiling like hot water in a tea kettle. But then I start thinking about Emma, and tears rush to my eyes. Will said the lady what bought her lives in Kentucky. I wish I knew how far that is from Georgia. Will said it's quite a ways. Said it would take almost a week for Emma to get there. Lord, please have mercy on my child. Please, I beg you, have mercy on my child.
How long before you be ready to start serving, Mattie?
Everything's about ready now.
Master looks at Mattie with sorrow in his eyes. Seeing the hatred on Mattie's face now, he regrets having sold Emma. He opens his mouth as if to speak, closes it, and finally speaks softly, haltingly. Mattie, I don't know quite what to say. I don't know what got into me.
I don't know you any more. You look like Master Pierce Butler, but you don't act like him. If you was the Master Butler I know, then you would have remembered that my black mother nursed you and me at the same time. The Master Butler I know got his nourishment in the milk from a black mother's breasts. You, me, and Will grew up here together like sister and brother. You look like Master Butler, but that's about all you got in common with the Master Butler I know.
Mattie, I know how it seems, but you have to understand.
All I understand is that my only child is on her way to some place called Kentucky, and I ain't never gonna see her again. What do you want me to understand beyond that? I hope you burn in hell.
Pierce Butler gives Mattie a look of disgust, shuts the door, and returns to his guests.
That's right, Master. Run away. I ain't got no respect for a man who does wrong and won't own up to it. Run all you want, Master. God knows and I know you done wrong this day, and Satan is gonna put you in the fire like you was pork ribs at a barbecue. As Mattie spoons mashed potatoes from a pot in the serving bowl, she spits into the potatoes several times, then stirs them again. She spits into the gravy and stirs. Spit, stir, spit, stir. Then with a smile on her face, she begins carrying the food into the dining room.